Ever been called trash by your in-laws while your husband just sits there twiddling his thumbs like it's no big deal? Yep, that was my life. Welcome to my story and buckle up because it's a wild ride. I'm Lisa, 28 years old, a stay-at-home wife, living in rainy Seattle. Picture me as just a small town girl from nowhere who thought she'd hit the jackpot with a fancy city guy. Spoiler alert, I didn't win the lottery. I married into a family that saw me as dirt under their polished shoes. My name's Lisa Carter. Well, Lisa. Something now, depending on how you look at it. I grew up in Enumclaw, a little dot on the map where cows outnumbered people. I wasn't some big shot career woman or a trust fund princess. Nope, just a regular girl with a knack for cooking, sewing, and making stuff with my hands. When I met Noah, my husband, it was like something out of a cheesy movie. He was tall, charming, a Seattle guy with a decent job and a smile that made me weak in the knees. Our families set us up old school arranged marriage style, and I thought this is it, my ticket to a better life. Oh, how naive I was. Noah's family didn't exactly roll out the welcome mat. His mom, Helen, is the queen bee of backhanded compliments. Think pearls, perfect hair, and a smile that hides a knife. His sister Claire is the snarky sidekick, always ready with a sarcastic quip to remind me I don't belong. From day one, they made it clear I wasn't good enough for their precious Noah. Too rural, too simple to me. And Noah would just sit there, letting them tear me down like it was background noise. But here's the thing: they thought I was nothing. A nobody with no spine, no future, just a bumpkin who'd fade into their fancy wallpaper. They had no idea what I was capable of. 8 years of their insults, their smirks, their little games. I took it all, stored it up, and turned it into fuel. This isn't just a sob story, folks. This is about how I flipped the script, how I took their garbage words and built myself a victory parade they'll never forget. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll see why underestimating me was their biggest mistake. So, let's rewind to the start and how I ended up in this mess. I'm Lisa, fresh out of Enumclaw, a dirt poor town where my biggest dream was escaping the smell of hay and desperation. My family knew Noah's through some church connection, think potlucks, and awkward handshakes. When they suggested I meet him, I thought, why not? He was my ticket out my night in shining armor, or so I thought. Noah and I got married, fast arranged marriage style, no fairy tale courtship here. He was sweet, don't get me wrong. Loved my cooking, raved about my sewing, even called my little craft projects genius. I'd whip up these killer lasagna stitch curtains that looked straight out of a magazine and turn old junk into art that made him grin, like a kid on Christmas. It was our thing, me creating, him appreciating. But his family didn't see talent, they saw a threat they could squash. Helen, my mother-in-law, was the ringleader. She'd stroll into our house, nose in the air, like she smelled something rotten, and drop lines like, "Oh, Lisa's still playing with your little peasant hobbies." She called me uneducated country folk to my face, like my lack of a college degree was a crime. Claire, Noah's sister, was worse. She'd smirk over her wine glass and say stuff like, "Noah could have done better than a girl who thinks knitting is a career." And Noah would just shrug, mumble something about keeping the peace, and let them keep swinging. It was just words. They made me feel invisible. Family dinners were a battlefield. I'd sit there trying to join the conversation, while Helen talked over me about Claire's fancy marketing job or Noah's bright future. My contributions ignored. My homemade pies pushed aside for store-bought junk Claire brought because it's more sophisticated. I started doubting myself. Maybe they were right. Maybe I wasn't enough. I'd lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made a huge mistake marrying into this snake pit. The pressure was suffocating. Noah loved me, sure, but he wouldn't stand up for me. Every time Helen called me trash, Or Claire laughed at my hick accent. He'd just look away like he was allergic to confrontation. I'd beg him with my eyes say something, anything but nothing. It chipped away at me piece by piece. I'd catch myself in the mirror and think what happened to the girl who used to dream big. Their poison was working and I was letting it. But here's the kicker, I wasn't just some helpless damsel. I had skills, real ones. My cooking could make a grown man cry. My crafts were museum worthy, if I say so myself. And I had this fire inside me that wouldn't quit no matter how hard they tried to stomp it out. Sure, I was insecure. Years of their crap will do that to you. But deep down, I knew I wasn't the failure they painted me as. That little spark kept me going, even when I felt like giving up. And trust me, it was about to ignite into something they'd never see coming. Now let's jump to the night that broke me and then remade me. Picture this, a big family dinner at Helen's swanky Seattle house. Fancy table settings, crystal glasses, the works. I'd spent days prepping, made this killer roast chicken a recipe. It perfected, plus homemade rolls. And I'd a pie that could have won awards. I walked in proud thinking, maybe, just maybe, they'd see me for once. Fat chance. Helen took one look at my dishes, wrinkled her nose like it brought roadkill and said, "Oh, Lisa, we don't eat peasant food here." Then get this. She grabbed my chicken, my rolls, my freaking pie, and dumped them straight into the trash, right in front of me. The room went dead quiet for a second, and then Claire piped up laughing. "What do you expect from a nobody with no education?" The other guests, Helen's snooty friends, started snickering. I stood there, hands shaking, feeling like I'd been slapped. I turned to Noah, my husband, my supposed partner. He was right next to me, staring at his plate like it held the secrets of the universe. I whispered, "Noah, say something." Nothing, not a word. He just kept his head down while his mom and sister tore me apart. That silence hurt worse than the insults. It was like he'd picked their side without even opening his mouth. I felt so alone, so worthless, like I didn't even exist. That night, driving home, I couldn't stop replaying it. Helen's smirk, Claire's cackle, Noah's cowardice. I kept asking myself, am I really this pathetic? Do I deserve this? But then something clicked. Maybe they were the problem, not me. Maybe their fancy degrees and big houses didn't make them better. It just made them meaner. That was the moment I stopped swallowing their garbage and started fighting back. I didn't sleep a wink. Instead, I got to work. I'd always been too shy to speak up. My English wasn't perfect, thanks to growing up in a tiny town where no one cared about grammar. But I signed up for online classes that night. English business, whatever I could find. I dug out my sewing machine, my paints, my kitchen tools. If they wouldn't see my worth, I'd damn well show it to the world. No more shrinking, no more tears. I was done being their punching bag. Helen and Claire wanted to play. Fine. I'd play too, and it'd win. All right, here's where it gets good, the revenge. After that trash can dinner, I didn't just sit there feeling sorry for myself. Nope, I got busy. I'd been secretly perfecting my English, turns out. I'm a fast learner when I'm pissed off. I started selling my crafts online. Think handmade quilts, funky jewelry stuff. I'd always been too scared to show off. I set up an Etsy shop, posted pics on Instagram, and watched the orders roll in. They think I'm dumb, I muttered to myself, packing boxes. Watch this. I kept it all under wraps. Noah didn't know, Helen didn't know, Claire didn't have a clue. I stashed the cash in a separate account. By year's end, I was pulling in more than Claire's cushy marketing gig. Every sale felt like a middle finger to their snobbery. But I wasn't done. I needed something bigger, something public, something they couldn't ignore. And then bam, Helen's 30th anniversary party popped up on the calendar. The perfect stage. Helen threw this huge bash, caterers, string quartet, the whole 9 yards. She invited half of Seattle's elite, plus me and Noah, probably just to keep up appearances. I RSVP'd with a smile and a plan. Over the months, I'd networked with the craft community, big names, influencers, people who loved my work. I invited a few VIPs to the party as my plus ones. Helen didn't bat an eye. Probably thought I'd bring some hick friends to embarrass myself. Oh, she had no idea. The night of the party, I walked in looking like $1,000,000, new dress hair, done confidence dialed to 11. I'd practiced my speech in perfect English. No stumbles, no country twang. Dinner was rolling along, everyone fawning over Helen and Claire. When I stood up, clinked my glass and said, "Can I have everyone's attention?" The room went quiet. Helen's smile froze. Claire rolled her eyes. Noah looked confused. "I just want to say a few words." I started voice steady. Helen and Claire have always been so kind to remind me of my place. Like when Helen threw my food in the trash and called it peasant garbage, or when Claire said I'm a nobody with no education. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I pulled out my phone, hit play, and let a video roll. Clips had secretly recorded over the years. Helen sneering, "She's barely fit to clean our floors." Claire laughing. Noah married a charity case. The guests' jaws dropped. But here's the thing I went on while they were busy tearing me down. I built something. I run a craft business that's made double Claire's salary this year. Oh, and these folks, I gestured to my VIP guests, craft influencers with thousands of followers. They're here to support me, not your little dynasty. The room buzzed. Helen turned beet red. Claire sputtered, "That's not true," I smirked. "Check my Etsy stats, hon. You're the trash here, not me." The fallout was glorious. Guests started whispering, some even clapping. My VIP stood up, praising my work to the crowd. Helen tried to laugh it off, just a misunderstanding, but no one bought it. Claire stormed out, tail between her legs. Noah finally found his voice, stammering, "Lisa. I'm so sorry." I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You should have said that years ago. I'm done carrying your family's baggage. I want out of this toxic mess, not you. Fix it, or I'm gone." That night I didn't just win. I rewrote the damn story. They thought they could bury me under their insults. Instead, I turned their own game against them and walked away the victor. After that party, everything changed. I laid it all out for Noah. "You've got one shot to pick me over them, or I'm out." He stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time, then nodded. "You're right, I've been a coward." The next day, he told Helen and Claire we were done. No more dinners, no more holidays, no more letting them stomp all over me. Helen cried. Claire raged, but Noah held firm. For once, he chose me. With them out of the picture, I could breathe again. My craft business was already killing it, but I took it up a notch. Opened a little shop in Seattle, all mine. I called it Lisa's Roots, a nod to the small town girl they tried to shame. Customers loved it. My quilts sold out in hours. My jams had a wait list. I kept learning 2 online courses in design marketing, even some accounting. I wasn't their punching bag anymore. I was a freaking force. Noah stepped up big time. He started therapy, worked on his spine, and turned into the husband I'd always hoped he'd be. He'd come home with flowers, say stuff like, "I'm proud of you, Lisa," and mean it. We rebuilt our marriage on our terms, no in-laws allowed. Looking back, I realized they'd tried to bury me under their crap, but I grew a whole damn forest instead. I went from doubting myself to knowing my worth, and that's a win no one can take away. Sometimes I'd catch Helen or Claire's names pop up gossip from mutual friends. They're still licking their wounds, apparently. Helen's social circle shrank after the party. Claire's stuck in her dead-end job. No one taking her seriously anymore. Me, am too busy living my best life to care. I've got my shop, my husband, and a confidence that's bulletproof. That's what happens when you stop letting toxic people define you. So there you have it, my wild ride from doormat to badass. They called me worthless, a nobody, a peasant. I turned their words into my win, built an empire out of their insults, and left them choking on their own drama. My shop's booming Noah's. Finally, the man I deserve. And the in-laws, they're out of my life, probably still whining about how unfair it all is. Boo, freaking who? Here's the update. Lisa's roots just hit 6 figures this year. Take that, Claire. Noah and I are tighter than ever, planning a real honeymoon we never got. Helen and Claire, last I heard, their persona non grata at half the fancy parties in Seattle. Guess throwing shade doesn't pay off when the whole room sees your true colors. What's the takeaway? Know your worth, folks. Ditch the haters, bet on yourself, and shine so bright they can't look away. I went from a scared small-town girl to a woman who doesn't take crap from anyone. You can too, whether it's family, a boss, or some snob who thinks they're better than you. Their trash talk, it's just noise. Turn it into fuel and watch yourself soar. Now I want to hear from you. Ever shut down toxic family like I did? Drop your stories in the comments. I read every single one. Hit that like button if you cheered me on, and subscribe if you want more tales of me kicking ass and taking names. Big thanks for sticking with me through this roller coaster. You're the real MVPs. Next up, my old boss tried to crush my soul. Guess who's laughing now? Teaser. It involves a viral video and a resignation letter. They'll make you scream, yes, queen. See you in the next one. Stay fierce out there.